Aaron, I watched The Last Jedi this week.
And it's a good movie. I'm
No,
glad that
still,
you did.
still hate it.
Uh-oh.
I have a developing take about it that I've kind of realized that I've always complained about, but I couldn't really put the right phrase to it. I talked with Nathan last week on the pod about like I didn't like the humor. Like I didn't understand Poe's humor, but it's kind of grown on me. Well, here's really what, after rewatching it, here's really what bothers me is I don't know about you, but in every movie franchise, any franchise in general, there is a certain vernacular and there's a certain way things are delivered, right? So if I said potatoes, boil
Lord of the
them,
Rings,
mash them,
Samwise.
fix them in a stew,
Right.
but it's
Sure.
not just the phrase, it's how it's written, it's how it's delivered. If I said
Okay.
that is most illogical, what do you know what that is?
C-3PO?
No.
I don't know.
Is it
It's-
Sherlock Holmes?
No, it's Star Trek. It's Spock.
Oh,
It's Star
Nobody
Trek.
watches Star Trek anymore.
Oh, don't hate on me. No. You're not going to hate on my Star Trek. If I said "He Who Shall Not Be Named" or
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
right. So there's certain and Star Wars actually is probably one of the ones that's most known for this, right? I got a bad feeling about this. Every single movie. There's a certain way that things are delivered in Star Wars. There's a certain way that things sound. You are part of a rebel alliance and a traitor. Take him away. Very deliberate, especially in the first one. A more sophisticated weapon from a more civilized era is what Obi-Wan talks about when he talks about a lightsaber. So there's very deliberate way that things are said in like a specific kind of manner. And I really feel like The Last Jedi chocolate milked that toilet bowl when it came to that. That opening scene where Poe is trying to distract whatever his name is, General Hoth, whatever his name is, I don't know. And he's like, the general's all, he's being the typical Star Wars character where it's very thick language and I will crush you, very, very thick. And they pick on it. They openly mock it and pick on it. And it ticks me off to no end because there are certain phrases in certain ways things talk about that or how they're talked about that fit in each thing. And what they did is they put Marvel humor where they grab General whatever his name is and they like drag him across the ground, like, Hulk dragging Loki in that opening. Yeah. Like they tried to do Marvel stuff. And I didn't like it. It's not that I really don't like Marvel movies. They're okay to me, but like it belongs in a Marvel movie. Like the humor of Star Wars belongs in Star Wars. The vernacular of Star Wars belongs in Star Wars. You're not hearing boil and mash them, fix them in a stew in Star Wars or in Star Trek. You see it in Lord of the Rings. Like there's certain things that belong in certain places. Oh, it makes me so mad. Aaron.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the definition of petty to me. That you're starting to go towards the vernacular. I hate the vernacular of the movie. I can't believe it.
That was just one take. There are so many other things that bother me about that. The Luke Skywalker throwing his lightsaber over his.
I guarantee you are the one person in the entire world who would call attention to something like that.
I'm sorry. I like paying attention to movies and how they are written and how they're done. And there are certain. I'm sorry. I don't.
Who pays attention to that?
I don't know. I know quite a few people that actually pay attention to that.
Who name them?
Nathan Woondy, 1. Mike Woondy, 2.
Oh my gosh! Well, you just rattled off that.
Devin Rufter, 3. I could keep going if you want. Like this is what we do. We sit around and talk about movies.
Documented evidence about this now. So they verbatim said, "I don't like the vernacular and the delivery of these lines."
No, that's my own take.
Well,
but the whole complaining
about
hold
on. I have read reviews that didn't think the movie was bad, but they did bring up that it was un-Star Wars like.
Yes, that's the whole point.
Mean? That's the equivalent of a lady at church being like, "There's not enough organ in the worship. I
hate when you compare things. It is apples and oranges because it's okay. No, it's apples and oranges.
Pander to what I think Star Wars is.
No, because Star Wars is actually something.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a point.
There's certain vernacular in certain ways things are delivered and certain ways things go in certain universes.
Whoever thinks about delivery, how does that pertain to anything?
Simple. Read a Marvel comic. What does it sound like? It sounds like, Hulk smash. Comic. Like, come on.
I've never read a Marvel comic. I don't read comics.
You don't really read.
Man.
Oh,
okay.
Please.
Right.
You just don't read fiction.
Okay, ladies.
All right, let's get the podcast started.
This is a sports podcast. Okay, so this is the Under.500 podcast. All right, everybody. Welcome back into the Under.500 podcast. My name is Tyler, and I am joined by my two very angry hosts. Eric, how you doing today, man?
I still love you, Aaron, but
You got me heated right now. You got me. No.
We have very different takes on movies. I saw you tag this up, and you're like, honestly, the only 80 movie I've watched is Back to the Future. And I think to myself, the best movies ever made that I can think of are like 80s and 90s movies, 70s, 80s, 90s. So like,
ugh, gosh. That
anyways,
makes me cringe inside.
Sure, because Jaws from 1970 something. That's a horrible movie.
No, Jaws is all right. It's good. I like it.
I'm doing all right. I'm under the weather and extra spicy today.
We have a spicy podcast heading to you guys today. Aaron, what's up, dude?
Oh, I was doing good tonight until that conversation. Now I'm feeling angsty right now. I've been doing good and working on my anger, and now all down the toilet.
Right. Regular old Kylo Ren over here, an angsty teenager.
Hey, best character in Star Wars. Anyways.
Bit bold, but okay.
We gotta get
all right. Well, you guys can hash this out in our next Star Wars podcast. Well, we're here to talk about sports, and this week I wanna hit you guys with some trivia. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Because our fans seem to really enjoy the trivia, and how smart you guys are. So my first trivia question. My first trivia question to you guys is, this one's kind of involved, but I'll get to it. In the 1961 and 62 NBA season, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.4 points per game, 22.9 rebounds per game, and a 50.6 field goal percentage.
That's so ridiculous.
Okay? He did not win the MVP that year. Who did?
Oh, Bill Russell. I think it was Bill Russell.
I'm just gonna follow that because I wouldn't know.
It was Bill Russell.
It was.
Which I looked at the stats, and Bill Russell also had a really good year. I mean, but Wilt Chamberlain recorded the best season in NBA history in almost every single stat.
Yeah. No, he got robbed that year, because I know what you're talking about. I've seen that before, and I'm just like Bill Russell's obviously a Hall of Fame player, but he didn't do nearly what Wilt did.
Right.
I mean, he has the championships. He won like 11, but as far as like individual play, no, Wilt was 10 times the player.
Yeah, I just reading that stat sheet, I was like, oh my goodness, how did he not get
50 points a game? 50, like that's
he played 80 something. He played 80 something games and averaged 50.4.
He's like playing.
That is incredible.
Like that's ridiculous. I don't understand that.
Yeah. So yeah, Bill, you were right. Bill Russell did win it that year. Okay. Trivia question number 2 is due to World War II, 2 NFL teams lost so many players to the war that they had to combine their teams for a season. Who were the teams? Okay, and then bonus, what was the name of the team?
Of the combined team?
Yeah, so they combined 2 teams, and what was the name of the team?
That's a really good trivia question that now I want to know the answer to.
Is one of the teams the...
is it one the
Lions?
It was not.
Lions?
No, it was not the Lions.
Boston Colts?
No.
Freaking A. It was probably
Browns. Was it the Browns?
It was not the Browns.
Is it a name that's not even around anymore?
No. These two teams are in the NFL.
Wait, the Bears?
Nope, was not the Bears.
Cardinals.
No.
I don't know.
We're just gonna start rattling.
You have like 25 more options. I'll give you guys one last guess, and then I'll tell you.
I'm trying to think of who's been around forever. That it's still they're still around now.
Oh yeah, both teams are still. Steelers are
same cities and stuff.
The Steelers are one of them.
Eagles.
Okay.
They've been around.
It was the Steelers and the Eagles. What do you think?
Okay.
What do you think they named?
Have been around that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think they named that team that year?
The Pennsylvania Captain Americas. I don't know.
Is it a name that's or no?
No, it combines their 2 names. It was the Steagles.
Stop.
I swear to God.
Serious?
Yep, the whatever year it was. I think it was 42.
That was technically.
Or no, it was when we were in the war, so it would have been 44.
League.
But yeah,
That
it was.
Well, 42. We were in the war too.
Okay, so I don't know what year it was. It was in the 40s though.
Yeah, that was before the NFL was even formed.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was the Eagles and the Steelers, and they were called the Steagles. I think that's so funny.
That just means that there was a lot of people from Pennsylvania that went and fought.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
The Steagles?
Yep.
Man, then there was that guy who came back from World War II, was a kicker, and he got his half his foot blown off or something like that. And he was booting field goals 60 yards. What a boss.
Ted Williams, I think, went and served, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Ted Williams.
Yeah, and then he came back.
He did.
Yep. There's a lot of professional athletes in that day that went out to the war and then came back, and a lot that didn't make it, which is sad.
Yeah.
That was a great question, though. That's a really good question.
I stole it off of Google.
There you go.
So the third one is, what is the deadliest professional sport?
This obviously is an opinion. There's an actual statistical.
There is a
right answer.
a huge. Yes, it's an actual statistic, but
Really?
it's this is so far ahead of everything else.
Is it the obvious answer?
What's your obvious answer?
He's gonna say football or something.
I'm gonna say soccer because most people in the world play soccer.
It's probably a very obscure sport that's not well known.
My next guess would be rugby.
It's actually an American sport.
Really?
It's not so it's an umbrella that covers multiple sports, but one of the main ones is an American sport.
What?
Is it auto racing?
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
It's motorsports and NASCAR, because NASCAR has seen so many deaths.
Yeah, way more than any other sport.
It's a lot.
Not as many recently, but yeah.
Right. But NASCAR has seen a lot of deaths, and then motorsports in general. So it's motocross and F1 racing, and all the ones internationally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can't believe I didn't. Yeah, I knew Eric. That's in your wheelhouse. I figured you'd get
that kind of is the obvious answer, but not a lot of people go to NASCAR or motorsports when they think sports.
Right.
They usually go to ball sports.
Yeah, I said soccer as the obvious one because the most people in the world play soccer. So
right. Probably a lot of people have died playing soccer. I just didn't look that up.
Well,
I just don't know if you can.
Colombia, you let up a goal, then you get shot when you get home.
True.
So yeah.
True.
Yikes.
That was sad. It's not funny when it's true. Anyway, so is that you have any more trivia?
Nope, that is my trivia for the night.
Right on.
Those are good questions. Good job, Tyler.
Thanks, man.
Google doing the thing.
Yeah, Google's good.
I just heard I watched the video real quick and then we'll move on, that Google does not want you saying that you Googled something. They want you to say that you search something using Google, because if the word with copyright stuff, if the word becomes basically the action, like an escalator used to be a company name and they lost their copyright because everyone started calling moving stairs an escalator.
Really?
So Google does not want you saying you Googled something. They want you to say you searched something using Google because they don't want to lose their copyright.
All
right, let me fix it. Let me fix that. I searched those questions. No, I Googled them.
Good job.
What are they going to do?
They can send us a cease and desist letter, actually. It's what they...
Hey, we haven't heard anything from resume.com, so I'm sure we're fine.
Good point. On that note, speaking of stuff from last season, we missed a really big take that we got right from last season in our little thing last week.
Anyone else?
We got it, seriously. We got it so far before everybody else that there were sports pundits talking about people should shut up about this take. And then they were asking who was even talking about it. And we were some of the people talking about it.
Yep, we're right on this one. And what was that take?
Hashtag fire Danny.
Fire Danny. Get him out of here. We were oh man. That was so awesome. We felt validated because I think after we had that take, the next week or two, sports talk radio, ESPN. It's like, is it time for Danny Ainge to leave? And we're like,
we said that. We said that before you said it. Yeah, it felt so good.
We texted each other. We're like, do you see what they're talking about?
For real.
It's like this little tiny podcast is like breaking like news stories like before ESPN and stuff. But
and Fire Danny, #Fire Danny has been on almost every one of our posts. I should go back and edit it to Fire Danny on all of our posts, but
Do it.
I might just.
And I am on that train, man.
Do it.
He's gotta get out of here, especially with what happened this past week.
Wait, what happened? Because I thought nothing happened.
Well, exactly, nothing happened. Someone else went to another team instead of to the Celtics. So Andre Drummond finally, which is good for my NBA fantasy team because he's been on my bench this whole time, finally got picked up by a team. I was hoping beyond hope that the Celtics would pick him up. They need a big man, and not just like a scrub like Tice or something who gets you 2 points a game. But Drummond is like a 17-point, 13 rebound guy in like 25 to 30 minutes per night. Fantastic, great rim protector. Really, pretty much an all-star caliber player. And I was like, that's it. Like, that's our guy. We got to give Danny, if you want to redeem yourself, you will grab that man. And they blew it. And guess where he goes? The freaking Lakers. And I was just like, you've got, like, come on, man. But I don't know. Like, this may be proving to me that Boston just is not a destination that players want to go to. Like, there just seems to be no appeal for them to want to go here anymore. They're going to want to go to those better teams.
Do you think that there's a reputation for Boston sports teams? You know, because I only ask that because in the past at least 10 years, we've seen a lot of reports come out of Fenway Park that the fans are incredibly racist.
Yeah, no, we're one of the most racist like sports towns in the country. Well, it's weird. You're not here anymore.
It's crazy how you say that, and I'm not going to disagree because obviously if there's evidence to it, and I don't want to be ignorant, but like Fenway still seems to continue that, even though they've tried hard to like even change like the name of the street. But like Boston Bruins were the first team in NHL history to have an African American on like starter, and obviously Bill Russell, right? Like
right.
That we're talking
Bill Russell in the white guy era.
In the pre-segregation for both of those people, actually.
Right.
So even though I don't know how big of a deal it was in Boston, we weren't around. I'd have to do some history on that before I make a take it, whether or not. But like just in general, before there was Martin Luther King Jr., there was Bill Russell and oh gosh, his name's escaping me. I want to say it's Ogg or something like that, Bob Ogg. I don't know. Anyways, he played for the Bruins. So like, and it irritates me that there's like even racist about it just in general. Like in general racism, I've had that rant before, but like. I don't know, David Ortiz, Pedro Martinez, like those were incredible guys that were like studs on the Red Sox. I don't have time for people thinking that racism needs to exist. Like, come on.
Right.
No, it's true. But I do think, Tyler, to your point on that, I mean, it is kind of known in the Boston area how some of the fans are. And there have been players who voiced, I don't want to play in Boston.
Right.
Because of that, because of how the fans are and what they've heard. So Boston, there's no doubt that Boston has, and that's nothing Ainge can do about that part.
Right. Yeah, right.
He can't change the culture of a whole city.
Not only, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go Eric, you can go.
Not only that though, right? But like, what do basketball players have to do in Boston?
Exactly.
So if you're gonna
though, compared to a Miami or to an LA,
right?
Yeah,
no, that's a good point.
New York or even Atlanta, like
right?
Warm cities with a nightlife and things to do. And if you're looking for like a movie deal, like LeBron is, you got to be in LA, or you're starting a shoe business, like New York or LA makes sense, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What does Boston have to offer you besides diehard fans?
And then it's cold pretty much half the year.
Right.
Yeah, if you're gonna go someplace cold, wouldn't you go to New York?
Right. Like it's just I don't know. So Boston just is not an attractive spot. The only thing that could do it, think about the Patriots, right? They're facing pretty much the same exact thing, but they were able to craft a system. No pun intended. But to get put a system together where they were winning, and to the point where players were wanting to go because of the success that they were having. And so that's Boston's one shot. But the problem has been, this is where it is Danny's issue, is he, for whatever reason, just loves to hold on to the players that he's always had, and he's not willing to let them go to spend a little more to try to bring in a big name. Because if you spend a little more to get a premier talent on that league, yeah, Boston may not be fun in and of itself, but other players are going to be like, well, I want to play with that guy.
Right.
And so I'm going to go there. But Danny, for whatever reason, just loves to stick to his dudes. And like, what's up? Oh, sorry.
In fairness, didn't he do that though with Kyrie?
Yeah, well, Kyrie ended up being.
But we ended up knowing what that was all about, right? But
right,
he did try that, right, with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie, and
it did work for that. Like he first signed Hayward, he got Hayward there, and then Kyrie followed suit. Partly Kyrie had some of his own stuff going on where he wanted to leave Cleveland because he wanted to be the main guy because LeBron was the main guy, and then we all saw that Kyrie isn't a main guy.
Right.
He's not that kind of a leader,
and continues to not be.
Right. But I mean, this year especially, I mean, you have Tatum and Brown, and my issue with them is they're phenomenal individual players, but they do not get the team involved. They do not pass much. They barely get assists. I think Brown gets like an assist every other game. Like they just don't incorporate their other guys. So I don't know what he's going to have to do in the future to maybe blow up that pair and start over. But he's got to do something now in this offseason to make it a more attractive spot. Because right now, no one, like they're 23 and 24. They're under 500. Shout out to our name. But yeah, no one's going to want Boston sucks and they're not even a winning team. It's like, so,
right. There's nothing attractive about it.
It suck this year even more.
Right.
Like,
especially when you have an arms race. Especially when you have an arms race between the Nets and the Lakers, right? So like, clearly they're like Cold Warring Russia USA right now, right?
Right.
How many times can you blow up the earth with your nuclear weapons? That's like
exactly.
That's like Lakers Nets with all the ridiculous signings that both of them have had.
Right, but something that you're not seeing from the Celtics, and which makes Danny Ainge kind of a bad GM, is that he's the GM, right? That's what they call him in basketball.
Yes,
okay, good.
You're correct.
So what makes him a bad GM is we know that this season is the Nets and the Lakers. And we've pretty much known that since James Harden early on went to the Nets. So we knew this was going to be a Nets versus Lakers championship. If anything else happens, it would be mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. But Danny Ainge has done nothing to prepare for next season.
Nothing.
Like absolutely nothing. We still have no bench. We still have like one playmaker. So it's just
his knees are shot at this point. And so I love him, but he's not doing anything with those knees right now.
Right.
You're talking about Kemba, right?
Yeah.
We know that Jacob would take Kemba back to the Hornets any day of the week.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's a whole other conversation with him, and we're gonna get into that a little bit. So.
Aaron, let me ask you a question really quick. Yeah. So, speaking of players leaving and stuff, you and I rejoiced over the fact that Daniel Tice was gone. Yeah. What do you think of our replacement for him?
I think it's just a taller Daniel Tice.
I just had to have you say it. I knew that was going to be your response, and I wanted you to say it.
I first heard that we were getting rid of Tice. That was it. I didn't know for who, and I was like, finally, we're getting rid of that guy. And then it was a Mo Wagner. Yeah. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? We traded in a 6'9" guy for the same person who's 6'11". So I guess maybe that's one plus. All right, he's a little taller. Maybe he could rebound a little better. But I was like, the dude's practically the same player. I was like, okay, I like Danny a little more. He got rid of him, and then he replaced him. I'm just like, I'm done. Like, fire this guy right
Get him
now.
out of here.
Wagner, that's your deal.
What's that GIF? We suck again.
Oh no, we suck again. That's from the Waterboy.
Yeah,
I was thinking. That is. Yeah. That is.
It's Rob Schneider from the Waterboy. Yeah. Yes. Oh no, we suck again. I love that. It's such a funny moment in that movie.
And then the other thing I want to talk about is so the Nets made another splash this past week. They picked up LaMarcus Aldridge, which, first of all, I don't know where they're getting all of this.
How do they have this money, right?
I have no idea. Like, they're just dropping dough on all these players. Like, you're paying Kyrie, Harden, and KD max contracts, and then you have the money to still get Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and now LaMarcus Aldridge. Like what that's just beyond me. IRS needs to look into that like immediately. Something fishy is going on right there. But after seeing LaMarcus Aldridge, like they have such a stacked roster right now. How does this make you feel? Like seeing this kind of thing happen? Like what are your initial feelings like when you hear that?
Honestly, shout out to the guys in our college group chat that we have. Brent said it before, but it's the Nets are spending all this money just to lose to LeBron and the Lakers again. And honestly, like I like KD. I think KD's a good player. Contrary to everybody else, I do like James Harden. I think he's a good basketball player. And I like watching him play. And I like a southpaw. I think a southpaw in basketball is cool. I just like watching him.
You just like southpaws.
I do.
Yeah, southpaw.
Huh?
You're a southpaw.
Well, kind of. I'm halfway. I throw with my right hand. So sports talking, I'm a righty.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Okay. Yes, you're right. So, so what was I saying? Oh yeah. So, so they're spending all this money and all this effort and all this time to get this like incredible star-studded team, and they really are just going to lose to the Lakers and LeBron because LeBron is just a superior team leader, and no matter who's on the team, LeBron's going to elevate those guys to be championship ready. So that's my thoughts on the whole thing. I really do. I think that the LeBron and the Lakers are still going to take it.
Eric, I asked because I know you have some feelings about the super teams and stuff in the league.
So we've already talked about like how you need to have talent to win, especially in basketball. Like you have to have, like, remember the whole talent and home court thing. Like if you have those two things, you have a recipe for winning. So I get that. I think two things. One, how hard was it for Dave Dombrowski to go out and buy pitchers and end up winning a World Series for the Red Sox? Like he bought the two highest market pitchers, the most available guys. So like, hey, these are stars, they're established stars and pitchers, so we're just gonna go get them. And wouldn't you know it, we put we're gonna get you a manager too, and he's the most desirable manager on the market, so we're gonna go buy him too. And JD Martinez, yeah, he's probably one of the best hitters, and he's out there and available. Yeah, we're gonna go buy him too. Like, how hard was it to put that together when you're just buying all the established talent? So like, as it pertains to any other sport, how hard is it when you put a team together and you just go buy all the known commodities and put them all on the same team?
No, it's true. That's a great point.
So to the second part is like, I don't know. I feel like I don't like the idea. I get that it happens in basketball, and that's just kind of how it is in basketball. I even get that Celtics were really the first one to really make it happen with the big three. But like, I think that the NBA needs to consider looking at how much of that they're going to let go, because effectively, are you just going to have one player call his team, like, this team is now going to go all the way, and then get all his buddies to come play with him? Like, and I'm okay with that to a degree because it's going to be entertaining. But like, you have all these other teams that are trying to play and establish themselves and develop and draft and the whole thing. And I feel that way in every sport. So you kind of take away those elements of like, we're gonna draft people. The Chicago Bulls drafted Michael Jordan, right? And then they continued to pick up pieces around him to make the team that it was and get him the right head coach. Because originally, watching Saving the Last Dance, I didn't realize that his coach, who's Phil
Jackson.
Phil Jackson wasn't his original head coach, and they eventually changed it. Like, there are things that an organization has to do to build a team that's championship caliber, and you're kind of taking all that away when you say, Kyrie, who do you want to play with? Okay, yeah, we'll get those guys. Oh, James Harden, you want to go there, and you're just going to sit on the bench and look like a fatty until you do? Okay, we'll just send you there. Like, I don't. There's parts of that I just don't like, and I don't like how it's going to infect other sports with that too. Because
I just feel like the NBA is just that kind of sport, because like the Nets won't be anything once these guys leave, and they're going to leave, right? Because LeBron went to Miami. So LeBron started out in the Cavaliers, am I right in that?
Yep.
And the Cavaliers were like, they were pretty good, but he didn't win a championship with them.
Yeah, they had a finals appearance.
Yeah, but he didn't win a championship with them until the second time around.
Right.
So then he goes to Miami.
It is starting to happen in football, though.
Exactly. And so like the team, it's just, I feel like that's been the DNA of the NBA for the past, since the 2000s. Is the team is going to build and get a championship, and those guys are going to leave, and they're going to be absolutely nothing. The Cavaliers aren't a good team. They have some up and coming guys, but the whole statement of rebuild in every other sport works. In baseball, when you rebuild a team, it works. In football, when you rebuild a team, it works. In the NBA, how do you even rebuild a team?
It's a whole different world in the NBA.
It's completely different. It's so much different. So I think, but I kind of like the DNA of the NBA right now, because if you have
the NBA is way more player personality driven,
sure,
than any of the other
right.
sports.
But again, that's fine if it stays in the NBA, but it's already starting to go out to other teams. Like, I mean, even Tampa Bay, Rob Gronkowski isn't going to play for Bill anymore, but he comes out of retirement to play for Brady because Brady's now in Tampa Bay. And I mean, like, Randy Moss says about Deshaun Watson prior to the madness that started. We'll leave that part alone. But like, the time of these owners being able, something to the effect of the time of these owners being able to tell us what we're going to do is over,
Right.
I don't there's got to be, I don't want owners telling players what to do to a certain degree. I don't want players telling owners what to do. There's got to be a balance there.
Okay.
There's got to be. And it's okay if that happens in basketball, but I don't want it to translate specifically to football. Like, yeah, super teams in football is kind of dumb.
Well,
it
actually,
just is.
you bring up a good point.
Play doesn't really work as well. I mean, the Bucks kind of were a super team.
It'll definitely have to look different.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, established stars at positional positions. We're not talking about a super team in the NBA with bench players. It's like talking about a super team in football with good offensive line. Like, it's wicked important, and you can't win without it, but no one's talking about that.
Right.
So we might have seen this in this past NFL season, the first NFL super team, right? But how long did it take them to figure it out? They weren't that great at the beginning of the year.
How long did it take him to figure out that Brady needs to coach the team and be the head coach? Or the
sure, that could have been that could have been a factor. But we're kind of in, we don't know if this will happen again, and we don't know if owners are like. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm talking specifically with the NFL. But to your point, Eric, you're actually right, and I don't. We're already seeing this in the MLB. Because if you asked any MLB fan who's the super team, who's the team with all the superstars, it's the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Even Aaron, who can't stand to watch a 9-inning game, let alone maybe a couple of innings, knows that the Dodgers are the MLB super team. So to your point, yes, maybe this is infecting other teams or other sports. And with the success of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we might be seeing this in all sports for a while, for a long time.
I think the climate of the culture as a whole right now, where it's like, stick it to the man, like,
right.
You should have, so that's just the culture in America right now as a whole. So that's just going to feed the players. People are going to back the players and stuff more,
right,
than in the past,
right.
But with me, just I will never fault the players for this. I'm like, if I'm a player, I'm like, hey, if I can get my boys with me and we play and we like run the table, I say good for them. Go get your chips. Like, go win. Or sorry, Kenny doesn't like the term ships. Go get
that sounds worse.
Rings. Yeah, it does, right? And so I will never fault the players. Like, hey, I would do the same thing. The Nets have pushed it to another level this year, though.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, all right, it can't just be, well, I want to go there, so send me there, and that's just what you have to do. It's like that has for the first time made me pause a little bit on it and think, well, maybe there should be some sort of something instituted where you can't just pick and choose where you want to go, and you have that kind of power and ability to do so.
I agree with that.
Players could have gone somewhere else and helped a team that didn't have talent, and you'd have a little more parity in the league. But so again, I won't fault the players. They're just taking advantage of the system.
Yeah.
Hey, do what's good for your career. I'm not going to fault them, but I think the NBA should take a look at that. That was a good combo. I think that's good enough for the NBA today.
Agreed.
We do got to move on to the NFL off season. Can't wait for the season to start, but we have some off season stuff coming up.
It's heated up.
It's
not as bad as the MLB offseason where you just like watching paint dry.
I think the entire NFL offseason has been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been so many different storylines. There's been the whole New England, who are they going to sign and what's going to happen, and of course the inaction. It's just New England sports now. We just don't do anything cool. We just re-sign the same players over and over and expect different results. But anyways, there's that. There's the whole, how do I say this tactfully, the Deshaun Watson debacle. Like it's exploded into something way, way worse than what we ever thought.
Is he up to 19 now?
I think so.
I think it's 19 cases.
Yeah.
You can do your research on that in your own time. The 49ers moving up to the 3rd overall draft pick, which I don't know if you do that if you have really a good feeling for Jimmy G, who as a New England fan,
and I see that, I'm like, what? I'm nervous now if I'm him.
He'll just get injured 5 games in anyway, so I don't know.
So they paid him.
I still want him, but
$27.5 million a year, and they're pretty much looking for another one. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just been spicy. There's been a lot of things going on. Like I think the New England narrative, even if you're not a New England fan, is interesting because now that Brady's gone and won one, like what is Bill going to do? How is he going to prove it? They are rebuilding the team to a certain degree. Some of the other movement,
definitely a rebuild.
Did you guys see the thing with Fitzmagic that if he gets a Hall of Fame nod, or not Hall of Fame, in order to get a Hall of Fame nod, he has to get into the Pro Bowl this year. So they're like everyone's trying to vote him into the Pro Bowl because he would have been.
Got in the Pro Bowl,
I'm all for
it. I think he'd be a Hall of Fame.
I don't think so either, but I just thought it was interesting.
He's a good player. But...
If he's in the Hall of Fame just for playing for so many teams, I'd be happy with that.
It'd be the ultimate journeyman.
If they made that distinction, like he's in specifically because he's the journeyman and played.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that because that's pretty cool. Like not many other players have done that.
Right.
He's not making it in on.
I think that's the basis. Career. I think that's the basis of why people want him in there is because he's played for. If there's most likely a chance that you've been a fan of him at one point in your life because he's played for so many teams.
I can get behind that. If that's the reason he goes in the Hall of Fame, then I can get behind that.
Not just his stats. Yeah.
Play.
I feel
that needs to be a whole segment of what should be in the Hall of Fame and what shouldn't be, because the whole should David Ortiz be in the Hall of Fame or not is a really interesting debate.
I'm sorry, I'll never entertain a Hall of Fame discussion because of how bad the voters are with like the MLB specifically.
Yeah, the MLBs are
all set. I'll never entertain a conversation. I don't take it seriously.
Fair. Okay.
One cool thing that happened the offseason is the Bucks are the first team since 1994 to bring back all 22 starters after a season.
Run it back, baby.
First time since 1979 that it's a Super Bowl team that's done it.
That's like in this free agency market, how it is now, that's unheard of. That does not happen.
That's Brady to the core.
It's a testament to his leadership that the players are like, nah, we want to play with you. And I mean, I think it's a testament to like he's the GM pretty much of that team. Like he basically built that team.
Yeah.
And the more that when that happened, I'm like, man, I think the Patriot way was a lot of it was Tom Brady.
It sure was.
The whole that's actually a really good point with them winning and the things that they've been doing in the offseason. The whole like Bill Belichick was the heart and soul of the Patriots is like
because he restructured his contract again so they could bring back Godwin. They could bring back those guys. And it's like, that's so were we giving Belichick that credit for that? Or when it was really Tom's? Like, I don't know. It's
the restructure of the contract I've always given Tom the credit for because he always just wants to win rings. So I've always given him that.
I respect that so much that he does that.
We need to keep
so much more.
We need to keep moving specifically to a topic that I'm really excited to hear.
Wait. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Was that it for the NFL offseason?
I was going to move on from that unless you had something else to say.
Okay, no, I do really quick. So when at the point that this podcast will be live, we will be officially in the MLB season. And I feel like we should talk about that really quick. I'm not going to ask you guys any questions. You don't have to say anything, but I want to give you guys 6 things. 3. So let me just, I'm going to do this really
Throwing
quick.
out numbers
really
right
quick, I promise. So the MLB season starting today, if you're listening to on Thursday, April 1st. So I want to give you guys my top 3 teams to win the World Series this year.
Okay.
And then my top 3 rebuild teams that I think in the next few years are going to be the teams. So my top 3 teams my top 3 teams right now to win the World Series are first and foremost the Dodgers. I don't know how you can argue that. The Yankees, because Judge and Stanton are healthy this year. Hopefully they stay that. Well, not hopefully. I want them to lose, but for Yankees, I'm trying to be not biased here, but so hopefully for Yankees fans, they stay healthy, and they're number 2, and then the Atlanta Braves, actually, they have a real maybe. All right, so it's a tie between them and the Padres.
I was just gonna say, you've been talking up the Padres for months.
Yeah, no, so it's a tie between them and the Padres. I actually didn't even think of the Padres because I'm stupid, but so the Braves and the Padres. Those are my 2 team, the 3A and B that I think are the top teams to win it this year. And then my top 3 rebuild teams are the Red Sox first and foremost, because I fully believe in Chaim Bloom. I don't know how you say his name, but anyways,
Bloom,
Kanye, whatever his name is. I fully believe in his ability to get the guy to get good prospects, which he already has starting this year, some really good prospects. And then just to make good trades and stuff like that. The Baltimore Orioles, their GM knows what he is doing. I promise. In the next few years, I know you're rolling your eyes, right, Eric? You're rolling your eyes.
Name on the jersey is all I need to see.
Because the Orioles have never, since Cal Ripken and Cal Ripken Jr., the Orioles have been nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then they get their GM, which his name is blanking, but he knows what he's doing. And that team in the next few years will be a good team. And then the Cardinals, who have been, I mean, they've been in their like ups and downs. They've lost 2 World Series to the Red Sox, which is hilarious. Both times they were swept.
How's that make you feel living out there?
Oh, I mean, St. Louis is in Missouri, so I don't live there. But
okay, but that's not what I meant. Like, how many fans are Cardinal fans out there? What else would you be? Well, I guess Kansas
0
City.
Royals.
Oh, is it
Everybody's
okay.
Royals
well,
out here.
I didn't know where you were geographically, because that can make a difference.
No, yeah, I'm
okay.
4 hours away from. Anyways, so the Cardinals, who are a team that has been kind of rebuilding, kind of not the past few years, because they have good players, but they also get rid of good players. So those are my 3 rebuild teams: the Red Sox, the Orioles, and the Cardinals to look out for in the next few seasons. So that's all I have to say about the MLB. We will watch it unfold, and I really hope that at some point Aaron will watch a full Red Sox game. So that we can talk about it.
Watching Godzilla vs. King Kong, not baseball. So
okay. we should bring him to Fenway. Let him have a Fenway Frank.
Yeah,
I've never been.
Let him sing Sweet Caroline in the 8th inning.
7th, bottom of the 7th.
Is it bottom? No, you're right.
Bottom of the 7th. But you know, Aaron, you need to experience a Fenway Frank in a nice, really cold, perfect pint of
root beer.
Good pint of Pepsi. I
stole that from Dr. Lutz.
Tyler, I think you need to keep talking, because something else is unraveling, and that would be the Boston Bruins right now are losing 4-2 to the New Jersey Devils. That would make them 1-5 versus the Devils, who are second to last in their division, and they almost lost. They did beat the Sabres. They did beat Buffalo, but they were up at one point to against Buffalo like 3-1, and they ended up winning 4-3 or 4-2 or something like that. So they let that team crawl back in too. So are they in trouble or not?
Okay, so we will definitely get more into this next week, because I want to talk NHL. The Boston Bruins have one of the best starting lines in the entire NHL. They have Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, and David Pastrnak. They have the guys, right? That doesn't matter. They are in trouble. They are in huge trouble. We are 1-2 days or so when you listen to this, we are in April. April is here. We have 2 months until the playoffs, and they are looking really bad. Okay? The Bruins are in trouble, and we'll get a lot more into it next week, hopefully.
Bet.
But you are 100% right, Eric. And I will say, and I'll be the first to say it, I'm not giving up on the Bruins. But last season for our podcast, I said they're my number 1 team to win the Stanley Cup, and they are like number 16 to win the Stanley Cup now in my book. Wow. I'm not going to give up on them. I really am not, because April and May, hockey teams can just completely flip the switch, just like August and September baseball teams or November football teams. It just happens. They could. I'm not optimistic about it, but the Bruins are in trouble, and you're 100% right.
Nice.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen.
So,
Tyler was wrong.
So I'm definitely going to continue to watch them and root for them, but I would agree. Like, just my pedestrian understanding of hockey, just they don't seem right. And you're right, they could flip a switch and off they go, but they need to do some work offensively, I think.
Agreed.
Just as much as defensively. They need to figure out what they're doing with goalie too.
So pretty much everything.
Well,
yeah,
offensively, defensively, goalie.
No, no, hold on. Halak and Rask are considered one of the best duos in the NHL right now.
I don't know if I trust Halak though in a big spot.
See, that's where you and a lot of other Boston Bruin fans disagree, because a lot of people want Halak as the starter.
I don't trust Tuukka either. Let's just be clear. I don't trust either one of them, because I've watched both of them like just soil themselves and give up goals that I wouldn't think NHL goalie should be giving up. But again, I'm just a pedestrian watcher of the sport, so what do I know?
No, it's a good point.
To be honest, so.
I'm like Jon Snow. I know nothing.
Ever. So being married's like they never know anything.
Moving along, we wanted to talk about something a little bit more big topic or more philosophical, because this was a debate we've had before, and actually this is a debate I've had many times before. I don't know what he's clicking on his phone, but okay. What is a sport? Can we define that? Can we define what a sport is? Like, because I've heard this debate a lot, and I feel like everybody who I've ever argued with, because my whole life I've been basically an auto sports fan, and I'm not I'm not a fan of people that say that a sport is just something that you play with a ball, or it's something that you have to be like, or like basically how they define sport is they define sport as something that you play with a ball that you physically can see them being athletic, right? Like you physically see them being athletic. If you don't see it, or you don't understand what's going on, then it can't be a sport. So tennis, obviously a sport,
right?
But
swimming doesn't use a ball, but that's a sport.
It is a sport, right? So there are other things that you wouldn't necessarily think of as athletic or sports, but I think they are. Like, I don't know, is horse racing a sport? I think it is, but doesn't it feel different than
I think
watching someone say basketball?
Well, the biggest thing with horse racing is the horse is doing most of the work, not really you. But then I guess, I don't know, that's tough because they're the ones doing everything that's taxing. At least with like NASCAR, like we've talked about this, like the drivers, what they get put through physically is
right. But in this, it's the same example. The car's doing all the work.
Yeah, but I know
he's not out there pushing the car at 200 miles an hour.
All right, well then I'd have to give horse racing I'd have to classify them as a sport then, because there is a level of balance and strength and endurance that the rider does have to, that they need, and they have to kind of continue in that. I don't know how long those races are usually, but
and danger. If they fall off that horse, all the other horses are trained just to keep going.
So yeah, no, horse racing is a sport. I'm sold.
So just let's not get lost in those minutiae though, but like how would you define a sport? How would you define something as something that is not only competitive, but is like classified as a sport?
Oh man. So I don't have science. I don't have science. Or like, I'm sure some of you guys are going to throw things at me where it's like, well, technically this, and I can't refute it. But I'm like going to be that cranky old guy who holds to my preferences and my traditions, and I'm just going to be like, it's a sport is where you are physically active, moving around in some capacity. There's athleticism being displayed, and athleticism is always determined by either running, jumping, cutting, agility,
Endurance.
endurance. Yeah, that was the other one I was thinking of, where those are being displayed throughout a competitive atmosphere. But then I know some people are gonna be like, well, we're gonna get into this because I know Tyler's ready to.
He's locked and loaded.
Is where someone's gonna bring up the video game thing and be like, well, there's agility and quickness and reflexes on that, and I'm like, but you're sitting in a chair, and so I know this. I don't have science or valid opinion to back it up. The old man in me is gonna be like, that's not a sport, and I'm not gonna back down.
Hang on, Tyler.
No matter what.
So just to define that a little bit more, so going back to my example of the sport I like, which is NASCAR. So you're sitting in a chair in NASCAR, are you not? So can't you be sitting in a chair playing a video game and it still be considered athletic?
Yeah, but you're also
you define that a little bit more.
You're in a vehicle that's moving 200 miles per hour and you're facing G-forces that can mess up most people. Like in a video game, it's like you're not experiencing any of that physical exertion that a driver is experiencing. And if you I flicked my mouse a little too quick. Oh, no big deal. You do that in a car, you're freaking rolling. So like to me that's a very, very big difference.
Okay,
like
I just wanted you to flush that out more.
Like you are physically there. I think that's what it's like in a video game. You're not physically in your world that you're playing. And I don't want to get into the video just because I know we're gonna get into that really soon when Tyler starts talking. But I think it's like you have to physically be present and exhibiting those like parameters of like jumping, running, cutting, endurance, etc., strength. So I don't know. It's tough to define, and I don't have like a definition. But in my mind, I have my like, no, it's you're running around or you're.
Well, you could just boil it down to you're using athleticism.
Right, but like driving, you're not running, but you're still using athleticism in that moment. So
Tyler.
So, we've had this conversation in our group chat, and I love playing devil's advocate. You guys know I'm a spicy little guy, and I love being the guy that argues. And I've flip-flopped on this in my head a few times. Is esports a sport? It just honestly, if my over my over, if you were to put an umbrella over it, sports comes down to like actual sports comes down to athleticism. You're right. But sports in the 21st century, I think personally, and it's my opinion, so I'm not saying this is fact, comes down to who's watching. Does it create a sort of environment of competitiveness? Does a sport create an environment of tension and what's going to be the outcome of this? Because every sport is what's going to be the outcome. You're leading to the end, right? And you have that in esports. Right. Here's a quote.
Yeah, but you have that in BattleBots too from Discovery. So what's the difference between the two?
I would consider that a sport. and this is just my opinion. But here's a quote from four-time Olympian and CEO of Sports Innovation Lab. Her name is Angela Ruggiero. She said, people huddle around a TV and they watch football and they don't participate, but they just love watching. Kids might do the same thing with esports, and you can't deny the numbers. And so my whole thing was with I'm not going to sit here and try and define what a sport is, because some people think bowling is a sport. Some people think that pool, billiards is a sport.
The whole objective of this is to define a sport. And just to your point about people watching,
I don't know.
Does the voice count then? Because they're using athleticism and people tune in to watch it. Is American Idol now a sport because people are watching it?
How are they using athleticism?
So in sports,
they're out of breath.
In sports, there's competition. In all sports, there's competition. But I think you can have something that is just a competition and not be a sport, if that makes sense.
Like chess.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
chess
this
isn't a sport, but
this goes into my definition. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So would I sit here and realistically classify esports as a sport? I mean, it's redundant to say that, but no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that the guys getting up and participating in, you know, game battles or whatever they do in the esports league. No, I'm not going to say that that's a sport, because I do agree with your definition, Aaron, that a sport is you're using athleticism of some sort. Clicking a keyboard and moving a mouse is not athleticism.
Right.
Because if a fat guy like me can point and click, maybe not as good, right? But if I can do it and still compete against them, and there might be a chance, then yes, I'm not going to beat Randy Moss at a 40-yard dash. It's just not going to happen. There is no chance. Even if he fell down or broke a leg, I'm probably still not going to beat him. Right? So I do actually, and this might surprise you, I do fully agree with you that I'm not classifying esports as a sport. I'm not.
Oh, man, I'm touched. I was ready to go to war.
I was ready
dude,
for
I
it.
fully agree with you. It's it's not there. The athleticism's not there.
Yeah. So here's what I was gonna do is how I defined it is like, you ever like target practice or shoot darts or whatever, and there are circles on the target, right? So like if you had like a target with 3 circles, I would title the target competition, and then like there are things that are just simply competitions, right? So like, you know, chess. I was like the I forget, my friend Nick and I played chess in 8th grade, and I forget if he won or I won. I think I won in 8th grade, and I was like the school champion at chess, which was terrible because Nick was better than me. But anyways, like that was a competition, right? Like
Mhm.
the
Like how you
chess
threw it in there. Yeah, this one time I was the chess championship.
Yeah, what a flex. In 8th grade, I just barely beat some kid who was smarter than me at a game I still don't completely understand. Anyways, yeah, woo, really flexing on you guys.
Eric was great with the ladies then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too good.
Yeah, too bad they didn't know I existed. Anyways,
The chess trophy didn't bring him running to you?
no, nothing.
Yeah.
I was.
It just led you to your wife. It's a beautiful story.
There you go.
Yes, it's a very beautiful story. Where do you guys totally lost? But anyways, competitions, right? So there are things that are considered competitions that, you know, chess is one. I'm trying to think of other great examples of things that are just American Idol. I brought it up, like just simply a competition.
Billiards.
But you said it, billiard. Well, yeah, okay, fine, billiards, fine. So like there are things that are just considered competitions, but under competitions, I would put sports as the middle ring and then team sports as the center ring. Because there are some sports that just are competitions and they're sporty, but I wouldn't necessarily call them team sports. So like, you know, golf and tennis, not doubles, or swimming or Olympic sports where you're all individualistic. Like I would consider those sports because now you're not only a competition, but you're involving some sort of physical thing, right?
Okay.
So I would put esports in that first thing, which is competition, simply because just because you, and I don't know why other people are defining it differently, just because you play a character that is in a video game athletic, like this isn't Ready Player One, you know, where you're wearing the suit. And now if that were to happen, like if you were to wear the suit and play it and like you could feel pain and you had this, you know, like Ready Player One, by the way,
I think that would be different.
That would be different. Like I would bring it, I would bring it down. But, and then I would put as the center circle as team sports. And I debated whether or not a team sport or just like a individualistic sport should be that dead center. But I think that team sport needs to be the dead center because I think even the most talented people on a team don't necessarily make the team win. I think there's another element of being a leader on a team, like Tom Brady or David Ortiz, just people from that I think of.
The team, like the sports with like the bigger the team, that's enhanced.
Yeah,
more, like with football compared to basketball. You know, you need that intangible leadership.
Right.
So like to define, and so when you have that, it's hard to define, like, or it's easier to define, I should say, where people sit You know, like, so if it's a team sport, then you know it's competitive and it's athletic and it's played on a team. So, and I think that's the ultimate thing. And that's why, like, when you hear a lot of debates about who's the greatest sports athlete of all time, it's kind of hard because how do you compare Tiger Woods to Tom Brady? You can compare Tom Brady to Michael Jordan. And I'm sorry if you think those are apples to apples or apples to oranges, they're not, because they're both competitive team sports.
Right.
So how they play in their own team sports versus the balance of everybody else, including the person they're competing against directly, is a comp. But
That's
I
actually
don't
a
think
really
it's
good point. Yeah.
I don't know if it's fair to put Tiger Woods versus Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? Because, like,
Or Muhammad Ali versus
Muhammad Ali, that's a great
Right.
example.
Yeah.
But Muhammad Ali versus Tiger Woods, you could probably put those two together and I don't know.
That's
Pick one.
hard, but yeah.
That's really hard. But it's easier to
because
kind of
it's
qualify things that
right.
way.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, 100%.
So that would be my definition: is look at a target, and the closer you get to the target, the more of a team sport it is.
Eric, you're always so really good at not just with definition and stuff, but like, I don't know, like you always bring a little bit of an outsider, a new way to look at things.
I have a very vivid imagination.
Yeah. See, and you know, which goes back to our conversation about reading versus movies.
He reads all those books.
I do. and in fairness to just to bring this full circle back to our conversation, Aaron, it's hard for me when I read books about Western oracles and rings forged in Mordor, and you could go on and on and on, and then to jump into like a Marvel movie or something, it's like, yeah, that guy, he shoots spider web out of his hand because he went on a field trip and got bit by something that had no business being out of its cage.
I'll stop.
I love Spider-Man, by the way. I love Spider. He's my favorite Marvel character. I'm just saying those two things are not
those things.
Hold on. I really need to ask you this because, you know, is our definition, Eric, you hit it on the head. Me and Aaron agreed. We probably thought that this was going to go a lot longer, but the whole sports thing, I think that was good. I need to ask you a question. What? Why do you keep knocking Marvel? What is wrong with Marvel movies?
They're not my thing. I still love like Endgame. I think it's a great movie. They're just not my thing. I just don't. They don't do it for me.
Really?
Yeah. If I read I just finished a 700-page book about like I'm high fantasy, dark fantasy, like all that stuff with like
high fantasy and dark.
So like George R.R. Martin would be considered high fantasy, but also dark fantasy, which is like, you know, I don't know how to define it, but like the Song of Ice and Fire is more of a dark fantasy, but like Lord of the Rings is clearly a high fantasy.
Yes.
Okay.
But when you're used to that kind of world building and lore, it's hard to get into a comic book with boom, pow, fight, yeah. Like it's just jarring for me, and it's not the thing I'm into.
Let me guess, you like DC more than you like Marvel.
That's hard to say too, because I really like The Dark Knight. I think that's phenomenal. I think
The Dark Knight's the best.
And I
movie ever created.
do like Batman, but I think Spider-Man has always been my favorite, so I can't really say that either because I've always loved Spider-Man. That's just true. So I really don't hate Marvel because I like Spider-Man. I think he's wicked cool.
But
I think the Hulk's cool too.
What is it about Marvel movies, specifically Marvel movies, that make you like, I don't really like it.
I guess it's just a
like
style.
Vernacular.
Oh no, not this again.
We'll save that one for another time. But so I can't even say that they're cheesy because I don't mind cheesy movies. It's just the style of cheesy that just doesn't do it. Because like I watched the Mighty Ducks again. Holy crap, is that ever cheesy? I love the Mighty Ducks though. The Goonies, kind of cheesy. Indiana Jones, kind of cheesy.
So
but I love those movies.
That cheese and Marvel cheese.
I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. It's just different to me, and I don't like it. It's just me. Like just like you like the sequel movies.
How do you watch movies? Like, have you seen Doctor Strange?
Yeah, actually, I do.
How do you watch movies like? Well, okay, so you like that one. I mean, I
didn't say I liked it. I didn't mind it.
Early on, like I actually am not a huge fan of Captain America movies.
Oh, the first Captain America movie was terrible.
I didn't like it.
Stand that movie.
I didn't like this
so bad.
Winter Soldier's the one that made me realize I'm really out on Marvel.
So, and I liked Civil War, but like, and like I love all of the Iron Man movies. But like, you have a point that some of them are a little bit cheesy, and my go-to on that is the first Captain America movie. But like, I just don't understand how you can umbrella Marvel and say you don't like the Marvel movies, but then there's such gems like Infinity War and Endgame and the Black Panther and what did I just say?
I honestly didn't grow up watching
Doctor Strange.
I didn't watch any of like the animated cartoons on DC or Marvel stuff. I didn't read comic books.
Neither did I.
I spent hours upon hours watching the same stupid Star Wars and Star Trek movies, and then Lord of the Rings came out, and like, oh my gosh, there's Lord of the, what is this? Like, I freaking love there's this real story about my mother was in the hospital because she had just given birth to my sister, and my sister had to stay in the hospital for a week because she had jaundice. And I was begging my father to watch Lord of the Rings, and he hated it. But he brings it up. Eric made me freaking watch those movies. Like, but I fell in love with like those kind of things, that lore, that world building, that intricacy. And I realize there's some of that in Marvel too. I just don't think
that. What do you mean some of that?
It's just different to me.
Over a decade building a world.
They have four separate phases of
they blew
movies.
Up the same city like 7 times. Woo!
Oh, stop! What are you talking about?
Ignorance is showing.
Stop, dude! Come on!
I just don't like him.
You know what? Just sorry if
you can tell me I'm ignorant all I want. Like,
no, but it just blows my mind because you say you don't like cheesy things, and then you bring up Star Trek. Of all things, the cheesiest cheese to ever exist.
I didn't. No, you weren't listening. Then,
in Eric's defense, he said he does like some cheesy movies. Like,
no, I know, but you don't like the Marvel cheese. But you like so for some reason you like sci-fi cheese, but not Marvel. What is it about Marvel?
I can't put my finger on it, but if that Marvel thing comes out, I go, oh boy, here we go. This is our style of cheese.
Because a lot of people like it.
So no, it's really not. It's really not that. I know that you guys like to try and pin me for that, but genuinely, that's true. Genuinely, just because everybody likes a movie doesn't mean that I automatically like it. But there's a reason why everybody likes it. Is usually how my mind works. Like, you know, there's a reason why everybody buys certain cars or certain brands that are most reliable, like Subarus and Toyotas and Ford trucks and Chevy trucks. You know, like people have preferences. There's a reason. There's a reason why everyone owns an Apple phone and why I finally caved to getting an Apple phone, because they're superior. Oh my gosh, I just admitted that. Cut that out.
I'm not gonna cut that out. Apple sponsor us.
There's other things too, though. Like, you know, when it comes to movies, I fell in love with Star Wars and Lord of the Rings on my own, but they're still immensely popular. But I still fell in love with them.
Okay.
I could keep going with those kind of things, but it's just I don't know. Like, I didn't grow up with reading comics. I think my father did. So
I never grew up reading comics.
I just can't get into that. I don't know. I can't get into that style. I think my favorite director is Christopher Nolan. Always has been, and I like that.
He's one of the best.
But he's intellectual, and you have to think, and like you have to follow the plot really hard. And
his Dark Knight trilogy, specifically The Dark Knight, is the greatest superhero movie ever made, and honestly, I think it's up there with one of the best. It could be ranked up there.
Yeah, we need to do that one day, is do like the best movie ever made or our favorite movie ever made kind of thing. But like,
yeah, we do. I need to talk about that.
We're never going to change my mind about just in general, and I'm sure people are going to DM her because this is so like it's jarring to people to say, you know, I don't mind Marvel. I'll go watch every new Marvel movie. I have. There was one point when I had a Twitter where I was like rating movies, not that anybody cared, but just for like my own log of watching movies. And
I'm sure I take a checked every single week.
Oh boy. But like I remember watching Endgame and Infinity War and thinking these movies just in general are really good movies. They are. So I'm not saying, I just don't, if I had to pick between a Marvel movie and watching the same stupid Star Wars or Star Trek movie or The Goonies or Indiana Jones or Uncle Buck or The Breakfast Club, well, maybe not so much.
That's a funny one.
Okay.
I love Uncle Buck. Like or Mighty Ducks or a Karate Kid. I'd pick any one of those other movies. I just would. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like they're not.
Oh.
Do you remember? I'll finish with this. Do you remember there was one of our friends who didn't want to go to the end of year school thing? What did we call it? The
banquet.
The banquet. And everything we tried on him, every reason, it made no sense to us why he wouldn't go. And he finally just said, "Guys, I just don't really want to go. It's just not my thing. I'm not interested." It's kind of how I feel about Marvel. Like I might go and enjoy it, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to walk away going, wow, Marvel is so good, and they just did all these things. I just don't think that because it's not really my scene.
So
How
you're
else do
not
I
a
say that?
Marvel fan, but you'll watch them.
I'm not a hater of Marvel, like openly. I pick on some of the Marvel stuff. I do pick on some of the cheesiness because some of it is really bad. And you guys did admit to that. Like some of it is like, wow, that's really comic book
They
cheesy.
made one movie a little too early, and it was a little cheesy.
But there are really cheesy. Probably my favorite movie of all time is one of the cheesiest movies with some of the worst acting I've ever seen. But
let me guess, it's Star Trek.
Wrath of Khan, baby.
Oh, so hold on. So you keep saying, you keep bringing in things that honestly is apples to oranges to me. Like you said, like if you would rather watch a Star Wars movie, which that's in this, or like the Goonies or Mighty Ducks and all that, get those out of here. I want to make you pick. Okay. Of the sci-fi genre.
I feel like this is a confrontation, but okay, go ahead.
No. I really am just asking, of the sci-fi genre.
Yes.
What is I'm gonna make you pick between two.
Yes.
DC or Marvel. What would you if movies costed $100 to go see, what would you pay the $100 to go see?
So wait, we do need to clarify this. So when you say DC, do you mean the current DC universe or like Nolan's? Are you including Nolan?
Yeah, you need to clarify.
I'll never include Nolan because the Nolan is here, and all the other DC movies I've seen are here.
Right.
What about the other ones with Jack Nicholson and like?
Yep, those are included.
And,
sure.
Okay, and Arnold Schwarzenegger and.
If you're about to pick the Arnold Schwarzenegger nipple Batman over any Marvel movie, I'm gonna quit this podcast. But
no, I just need to clarify.
Go ahead. Yes, that is included.
Okay, so if you're not going to include the Dark Knight,
no, Dark Knight is always excluded from DC in my book.
So to that degree, in that regard, I have yet to watch a single DC movie since Man of Steel.
Okay.
I haven't missed too
so
much.
I'm not even gonna
every Marvel movie.
I'm not gonna make you pick then, because you haven't seen the Justice League and you haven't seen all the other Aquaman, the Snyder Cut.
Snyder Cut's a lot better. It's
so
way better.
You know what? We'll save that for a day that maybe you have seen more.
If you're making me pick between characters of each one, like if I had to pick between Batman and Spider-Man, I don't know. I like the principles of Batman, but I really like Spider-Man. Like that's really hard. So I honestly put them each on the side of a coin, and then which one to land I'll go with. But if you told me that if I was going to be like, you're going to waterboard me if I didn't make a choice, I'd probably pick Batman.
Okay,
honestly,
that's honestly a smart choice. So since we do have a little bit of time, I do have one.
Video games are not a sport.
I think we firmly established that.
Hold on, so
we got that down.
Yeah. So I actually do want to ask you guys this really quick because I have a very firm answer, and I really want to know what you guys think because we have a little bit of time. Of all of sci-fi, who is your favorite villain of all time?
Ooh.
When you get your answers, just go ahead and speak.
Okay, so let's clarify
stuff. Movies that's not sci-fi, right?
What do you mean? But say that again, Aaron.
No, we need to define sci-fi real quick because Star Wars is not a sci-fi. Star Wars is a Western. No, it's not. It's a Western.
What?
Yes. Go look it up.
Star Wars is science fiction. I'm not going to look it up.
No. It's when they made Star Wars, they made it as a Western.
No. I don't care. I'm not going to go Google it.
That was great.
Sorry, I'm not going to go use Google search engine to look up if Star Wars is science fiction or not. Star Wars is science fiction. Who's your favorite freaking villain?
Okay, so So I just wanted to say that to clarify because I guess that's a little bit of trivia is that when George Lucas made Star Wars, he made it more like a Western than a science fiction. But if you're going to say science fiction is Star Wars, then I have to go Darth Vader.
Okay.
Like freaking iconic. There's for 50 years, 40 years.
Okay, that's a good answer, and I accept that.
So comic book movies and stuff, I don't think they fall under sci-fi, do they?
No, that's science fiction. It's all science fiction.
Oh man, because for me it would. Oh no, Dark Knight doesn't count because it would be Heath Ledger's Joker.
I almost said Joker.
No, that's included.
Oh, then I think the Joker in general, just that villain, He's just so freaking creepy but smart and maniacal. Like it's because he doesn't have powers, but he's just that evil and smart. Like
Right.
it makes him more unnerving that he doesn't have powers and is that way.
Because you could conceivably see somebody doing that.
Or like Thanos, like he's like all powerful, had the stone, he could do whatever he want. Like cool, but he's got power. Like the Joker though has none of that, but he's just pure evil
Mm-hmm.
and just chaos, and like it makes you cringe. Like there's a scene in the Snyder Cut, Tyler, if you ever watch it, right near the end with him, and it's like, holy crap, it was creepy, but you're like, I want to see more of that. So I don't know, I'd have to go with the Joker.
Yeah. So that is actually my thing. So a lot of people don't know this about me. Is that I, for years and years, have been fascinated by the character of the Joker. I would read everything I possibly could about the comic book Joker, about the cartoon Joker, about all the movies. Mark Hamill's. Yeah, Mark Hamill was a staple Joker for the cartoons. About the movie Jokers, and then what set that off was the Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, just the way he performed that role.
Yeah, it's one of the best performances of all time.
Oh, hands down, one of the best method performances that ever existed. For the lone fact of he probably adapted that mentality and killed himself because of it. Which is method to the max. He became so much like the Joker that he just killed himself. Not to make light of the situation, that's very sad, but the character of the Joker is just so insanely cool because, like you said, Aaron, of how just pure evil he is, and that's cool to me. That is cool to me, and not to glorify bad things, but when it's in science fiction or when it's in fiction, I think it's okay to be fascinated by things like that because it's not real. That person doesn't exist, and I'm okay with being fascinated by them. But there are
some really good villains out there,
and there are. And I ever since I saw Infinity War Endgame, I'm like, wait a second, is Thanos my favorite villain of all time? Because Thanos is cool to me. I like watching those two movies specifically because of Thanos. Because when I watch them, I legitimately feel fear.
I have to give you this much. There are some movies that the villain isn't like the main staple. Like Lord of the Rings, obviously Saruman is the villain, but do you really feel the whole time like you're fighting him?
Right.
I mean, by design you're not, because you're fighting Isengard and then you're fighting orcs and
or even Harry Potter. Do you feel like you're fighting Voldemort? Oh, sorry, he who shall not be named the whole time? No, not really. It's usually towards the end, and then you get into the last two movies, and it is. Which is why Voldemort, when he becomes like the physical Voldemort in the Goblet of Fire, that's when Voldemort becomes a really cool villain.
Best movie in that franchise, by the way.
Oh yeah, Goblet of Fire is superior to all of them. I firmly believe that.
I will give you this much too, though. Is Star Wars developed, you realize that even though Vader was like the ultimate villain, he really wasn't, right? Like he started out as the ultimate villain, and then they added some more depth to that, and it really became the Emperor. So if you're talking pure ultimate villain,
no, but that still
Joker's
counts.
A really good pick.
But Darth Vader still counts because he's still the guy to be feared. Yeah, he's still the guy you don't want to mess with, even though he ends up being exactly, which gives his character
makes the Joker different.
But it still gives Darth Vader a lot more substance, which I think is great for a villain.
I don't disagree.
But with the Joker, he's just one of those guys that when you see him, you know it's not good.
I almost said the shark from Jaws.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point too. I like that one. But yeah, the Joker is, in my book, the best villain of all of fiction, science fiction, whatever you want to call it, comic books. Whatever. The Joker's character is just superior. He's just the guy to be feared. He's the guy you don't want to mess with. And if we didn't get Heath Ledger's Joker, we wouldn't have gotten Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, right? And we wouldn't get these origin stories that we got from Gotham with I forget the kid's name in Gotham, and all this lore that goes behind it, and just the fact that you can build so much off of somebody in the comics who was just a villain in the comics. I mean, there were so many villains in the comics: the Penguin, the Riddler, and all those. They all got equal comic book time, right? But the Joker was the guy who got more lore added onto him, which makes him far more superior to any villain in any comic book or science fiction, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely like the ultimate villain in that universe.
Yeah.
All right, sports, love them.
I think we talked more about movies this time, but
I know, yeah. I think we had we got to do a big thing there. Well, we're gonna wrap up, guys. For those who are listening, please find our. Well, if you're listening, you found us, but we would ask that you would tell your friends, tell your family. We talk about sports and we talk about movies apparently a lot. So you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. And let the word be known. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Help us out. And you can follow our Instagram at Under.500 Podcast and our Facebook page. We post weekly content that you can interact with. And at any point, please send us a DM with any questions or topics you want discussed. Sports questions you have, sports topics you want discussed, heck, movie topics. If there's any comments on anything that we said that you either want to make fun of or praise us for, please, we always enjoy praise from the fans. And don't be too mean when you rip us apart. And so, yeah, be sure to subscribe to us, hit us up on our Facebook and Instagram accounts. And next week, just be prepared. We're going to talk about our top 10 quarterbacks of all time. So that's going to get heated. I already know it's going to be an interesting one.
This one will be good.
Yeah, we'll look forward to having that conversation with you guys next week. All right, boys.
All right,
We're
man.
done.
See you guys. Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week.